Hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. I'm thrilled you're here. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more from the Turkish entertainment scene, because what I'm about to tell you has shaken the industry and lit up timelines across continents. A private event, protected by walls and whispers, found its way into the world, and suddenly everyone was talking. The revelation? After a delicate medical operation, Elçin Sangu wanted to see only one person. Not a family member. Not a close friend. Not even her surgeon. She wanted Barış Arduç. That single choice spoke louder than months of headlines, louder than speculative interviews, louder than the silence they both kept. For weeks, maybe months, those close to the couple say something wasn't quite right. Elçin had been pushing through an ache she didn't name, a discomfort she covered with poise and work ethic. She stayed on set, signed contracts, smiled for cameras, carried scenes with the kind of quiet strength she's known for. Behind closed doors, though, she was carefully consulting doctors at a private clinic in Istanbul. The decision to go under the knife came late at night after a cluster of second opinions. She kept it under wraps so it wouldn't spill into her professional commitments, so it wouldn't turn into another round of chatter about whether stress, distance, or disappointment had been taking a toll. Even some of her close colleagues had no idea what she was going through. On the morning of the procedure, she arrived accompanied by a small circle, her mother, her assistant, and two friends who have always known how to protect her from noise. They checked in quietly. No fanfare. No tipped-off photographers. Nurses later described how gentle and calm she seemed, how careful she was in choosing her words, how her eyes kept drifting toward the door, like she was expecting a text, a sign, a moment of clarity before the anesthesia would dim everything to a soft, unreachable blue. The operation was carefully planned and not without risk. It wasn't headline-friendly drama. It was a personal intervention, something she needed to feel whole, to breathe without worry, to step back into herself. When they wheeled her out and the first currents of consciousness began to pull her back from the edge of sleep, the monitors beeped steadily, lights hummed low, and the room felt heavy with relief. That was the moment witnesses say they heard her whisper one name, not twice, not tentatively, but with a certainty that made everyone stop. Barış. People inside that recovery room felt the air shift. A nurse glanced up from the four-line, a doctor paused mid-note, and her mother, who has seen her daughter carry storms without a single complaint, let a tear slip she didn't bother to hide. It wasn't dramatic. It was simple, pure, undeniable. Through medication haze and exhaustion, her mind reached for the person who mattered most. Through months of public distance, rumored friction, imagined rivals, and rehearsed indifference, she spoke the name of the man who still holds a part of her heart. Those present say the effect on her mother was profound. She'd noticed the armor building, the way Elçin grew quiet when certain topics surfaced, the way she changed the subject when the words, "Are you too?" hung in the air. But hearing that name at a moment of vulnerability, when pretense has no oxygen, brought something tender and indisputable into focus. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't a script. It was a daughter calling for the person who makes her feel safe. The medical staff, professional and discreet, were struck by the intensity of her focus. Even as they monitored her vitals and guided her back, she asked soft, fragmented questions that all led to the same place. Had someone called him? Did he know? Would he come? They told her to rest, to let the anesthesia ebb away. But her gaze kept searching the doorway, as if love itself could walk through, as if the hum of machines could deliver an answer. She was still attached to monitors and couldn't move freely, but the priority pulsing beneath every breath was unmistakable. She wanted Barış informed, and she wanted him nearby. As always, private news is never quite private for long. The moment someone outside that protective circle learned of her singular request, a spark shot through the media ecosystem. Producers cut into programming with developing story, graphics. Bloggers posted ambiguous captions. Fan accounts zoomed in on every rumor and repackaged whispers as revelations. Was this a thaw after months of distance? Had their story been paused but never ended? From Spain and Italy to Brazil, Mexico, and Chile, fans translated posts in real time and built trending topics from fragments of truth. Sources say the message reached Barış while he was at a rehearsal. He was focused, doing what he always does, showing up with discipline, turning complicated beats into something seamless. Then the phone lit up. Those nearby described shock first, then a stillness that lasted just long enough for him to gather himself. He wasn't dramatic. He didn't perform his worry. He simply set everything aside and left, with urgency that read like guilt, relief, and something older and deeper than either. For months, the public story had been distance. In that instant, the private truth looked a lot like love that had refused to fade. At the clinic, security tightened. Staff coordinated a discreet arrival. Nobody wanted a lens capturing a moment too fragile for an audience. The corridors were cleared, cameras turned toward neutral floors, phones placed in lockers. If you're picturing flashbulbs and chaos, erase it. This was quiet. This was careful. This was two people being given the grace they needed. He came in without fanfare. No team, no theatrics, no statements prepped for reporters who weren't there. Those who saw him step into that protected space say he carried the weight of every headline printed about them, and the ache of every message he never sent. And yet, when he reached her, what mattered didn't need an explanation. It was in the way her shoulders softened. It was in the way he stood close, attentive, as if asking permission with his eyes. It was in the way she smiled, small, tired, unguarded. There are no photos of their meeting, and perhaps that is why the moment feels more real. No curation. No staging. Just a door that opened and two people who chose to be in the same room again. If you've followed them, you already know how charged that is. They built their connection in a blaze of chemistry, then learned how fragile that blaze becomes when 1,000 hands try to control its heat. The past few months demanded that they perform distance. But distance is an outside thing. Inside, something else had been holding steady. The report of that whispered name did what the loudest PR campaign couldn't. It shifted public perception. Suddenly the narrative wasn't about speculation over third parties, or who unfollowed whom, or who liked a sly caption at 2 a.m. It was about two people who, when all the noise fell away, reached for each other. TV panels debated whether this was a reconciliation or simply a moment of profound care. Fans flooded timelines with clips of their happiest interviews, analyzing the soft looks and the easy laughter that once felt effortless. Every language had a word for it, and none of them were enough. Behind the scenes, friends say something gentler unfolded. He apologized for the times silence felt like absence. She admitted how hard it had been to keep pain private, to tuck something so human into a neat little box marked later. They did not resolve years of complication in a single hour. Life doesn't work like that. But they did share the kind of softness that stops time. He promised to stay until she fell back asleep. She asked him to tell her what rehearsal was like, the smallest, silliest details, because routine was comforting, and his voice, steady and familiar, was a lifeline back to normal. When word of his immediate departure from rehearsal reached the press, the cycle roared again. Some accused them of manipulating attention. Others pushed back, reminding everyone that real fear does not schedule itself for prime time. The clinic remained unmoved by calls for comment. The visiting hours were honored, the privacy protocols unbroken. Those hoping for a shot of them together walked away with nothing but questions, and that was exactly how it should be. In the hours and days that followed, what mattered most had nothing to do with trending charts. It was the way she gained strength, the way her laughter returned in short, breathy bursts that sounded like weather clearing. It was the way he showed up without staking a claim, present but not possessive, aware that the bravest thing you can do for someone you love is to let them feel safe on their terms. And it was the way her mother, who had watched their story bend under expectation, began to believe again in the quiet truth that hides under headlines. If you strip this moment of fame and pressure, you get something achingly simple. A woman in a hospital bed asked for the man she loves. A man put work aside and went to her. Doctors and nurses did their jobs. A family held its breath. The world tried to make it a symbol, because that's what we do with people we don't actually know. But symbols are cold. This was warm and human. It reminded everyone that behind practiced smiles and meticulously crafted captions are two hearts doing their messy best. Will this become a full reconciliation? That's not a promise anyone can make right now. The only certainty is that the gesture cut through fatigue and cynicism. It was the kind of unguarded truth that makes fans root for an ending that doesn't have to be perfect to be honest. And from Madrid to Rome, Sao Paulo to Mexico City to Santiago, fans celebrated not with invasive demands, but with a shared hope that kindness is making a comeback in their story. Before we go, remember this: the biggest media frenzies start with a whisper. This one began with a name spoken in the quiet between sleep and waking, and it echoed loud enough to soften the hardest takes. Whether the next chapter is a careful friendship, a rekindled flame, or something only they can define, the moment in that recovery room will stand. Real bonds don't disappear just because a spotlight tries to wash them out. You've been watching Secrets Behind the Stars. Like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the updates, because whatever happens next, it won't be the noise that tells you the truth, it'll be the small, human moments that do. Until then, take care, and keep your heart open to the possibility that what's real can survive the storm.